Everyone knows the headline version of the Taylor Swift story. The masters, the re-recordings, the headlines, the victory. But what people don't talk about enough is why this story matters to normal women with normal jobs. Because this is not a celebrity drama. It's a case study in ownership, leverage, and long-term thinking, especially in industries where women are expected to be grateful, flexible, and quiet. This video isn't about becoming famous. It's about understanding what it means to own your work emotionally, creatively, and financially before someone else does it for you. One of the biggest misunderstandings about ownership is thinking it's about freedom. It's not. Ownership is about leverage your ability to make decisions without panic, guilt, or dependency. Taylor didn't lose her masters because she failed. She lost them because the system prioritized ownership for investors, not creators. And this mirrors real life more than we like to admit. Most people today produce value, generate engagement, contribute ideas, build brands, projects, systems. But the leverage lives somewhere else. Your work might be visible, praised, even profitable. But if you don't control how it's used, distributed, or monetized, you're still replaceable. Ask yourself, if I stop tomorrow, who still benefits? Does my work compound for me or only for others? Am I building assets or just output? Output without ownership creates exhaustion. Ownership without perfection creates security. This part matters. Women are often encouraged to be grateful, accept exposure as compensation, avoid being difficult, trust the process. Taylor Swift was praised for being polite, hardworking, and agreeable early in her career, but none of that protected her work. And in everyday life, this shows up as unpaid labor, emotional overinvestment, staying silent to avoid conflict, giving more than necessary. We're taught that asking for ownership is aggressive, that protecting our work is selfish, that ambition should look humble. But ownership isn't about ego. It's about self-respect and foresight. Before saying yes, ask, what am I gaining long-term? Is this building something I control? Would I still say yes if there were no praise? If the answer feels shaky, pause. Discomfort now often prevents resentment later. One of the most important lessons from Taylor's re-recordings is patience. Re-recording albums wasn't glamorous. It wasn't fast, it wasn't emotionally easy, but it was strategic. She accepted short-term inconvenience for long-term autonomy. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they optimize for speed, comfort, approval. Ownership requires a different mindset. Slow builds, boring systems, delayed rewards. Ask yourself, what would I want to still own in 5 years? What am I building that doesn't depend on trends? Where am I trading long-term stability for short-term ease? Power doesn't come from working harder. It comes from designing systems that don't collapse when attention fades. Another overlooked aspect, distribution and narrative. Taylor didn't just reclaim music, she redirected attention. She decided which versions mattered, where listeners should go, how the story was framed. In normal life, this looks like who controls your audience, where your content lives, who defines your value. If all your work exists inside one platform, one job, one client, one algorithm, you don't own it. You borrow space. You don't need everything. You need one anchor you control, a mailing list, a portfolio, a product, a repeatable skill. And you need to talk about your work like it matters. Not apologetically, not jokingly, not as just a side thing. Language shapes value externally and internally. This is the quiet part no one talks about. When you own your work, you negotiate calmer. You say no faster. You chase less validation. You stop over-explaining because your sense of security isn't tied to being chosen. Taylor didn't become powerful because she won an argument. She became powerful because she became harder to exploit. And that's the real goal. Not fame, not perfection, not independence for its own sake, but a life where your effort compounds, your creativity leaves something behind. Your time builds stability, not just moments. Most people wait for permission to treat their work seriously. Ownership starts earlier than success. Document how you think, how you solve problems, how you make decisions. Not for virality, for proof of authorship. When you can show, this is how I built it, this is how I think, this is my process, you become harder to replace. This is especially powerful if you're still small. Early documentation creates a paper trail of value. This one is subtle and important. Not every idea deserves public distribution. Not every insight should live on someone else's platform. Use borrowed platforms to attract attention. Test ideas, connect, but keep your best thinking somewhere you own. That could be private notes, a newsletter, a product. A long-form space. Attention brings visibility. Ownership brings longevity. One reason Taylor's re-recordings worked is because she allowed evolution. Your early work doesn't trap you. It informs you. You're allowed to outgrow ideas, refine your voice, change formats, raise standards. Ownership gives you permission to change without losing yourself. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You're not behind, you're not irresponsible, and you're definitely not failing at life. You're just in the phase where no one teaches you how things actually work. Most of us weren't raised learning how to own our time, our ideas, or our energy. We were taught how to be useful, how to perform well, how to please systems that benefit from us staying unsure. If you're here watching this, thinking about these things, asking better questions, you're already doing more than you realize. You're in the right place at the right time, learning exactly what you need next. And that's enough for now.